Hi guys, this is Dr. Christy Hunter, and I just wanted to record another video to help those who are feeling a little overwhelmed with what you need to get done for Capstone. I get it. It is very overwhelming. You are juggling family, you are juggling other classwork, and then you have your capstone preparation. So I thought I would go through one of the lists that I created. It's in the resource forum, but I thought I would review it and go over kind of the steps and where I think you should focus. So I'm just going to share my screen. And I would like to go over this again. So it's the Nurse Educator Track Capstone Checklist. So this can be a little confusing because this says getting started and then after Nurse 506. Well, sometimes that's a very long time ago for some of you. So I kind of wanted to just let you know that the thought process behind this checklist is that you're working on this 2 to 3 terms prior to capstone. For me, that means that by the time you're in your first NED track course, so that right now is Nurse 635, which is teaching and learning. When you get to that course, I want you to start working on this checklist, okay? So explore the resource forum. I really want you guys to participate in a once a month Q&A for Capstone. I think it can help alleviate some stress and pressure, and it's just very informal where you can ask questions or you can just log on and listen to the questions being asked. So I really recommend taking the time to do that. So you're going to review the Nurse Educator Resource Forum. I want you to look at the Capstone Preceptor Guide. Okay, so this is going to explain to you what your academic site preceptor should look like and what your clinical site preceptor should look like. Now, I really want you to know that I want you to think outside the box here. You guys are in the nurse educator track. And what that means is that your goal is to be a nurse educator, whether that's in an academic site as an academic nurse educator or in a hospital or healthcare institution as a clinical nurse educator. Okay, so when you think about that, that is what your site should revolve around. Your clinical site should give you many opportunities to educate as a nurse educator. So not educating patients necessarily, but what does can you look for a clinical nurse educator that can precept you? Because that is the premise of Capstone. Academic site. So if you are interested in becoming a nurse educator at an academic institution, which 50% of you are, the best way to develop relationships and networking is to find and reach out to a local academic site and look for a preceptor. Now, the best way to do this, and this is one of the questions that I get all the time, is how do I go about this? Yes, cold calling is probably the best way because that tells your preceptor or the director or the manager that you are brave enough to make that cold contact. And what I mean by that is it's so easy to send someone an email, and it's also very easy for that manager or director to ignore that email. But what they can't ignore is a phone call. So if you're looking for a clinical nurse educator preceptor, look for your local healthcare institution, call their main number and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm looking for the nurse education department. And then they'll transfer you and then you start over. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I am a graduate student in a nurse educator track, and I'm looking to work with a nurse educator for my preceptorship. Same thing with an academic site. You can locate one next to you. I recommend it be a technical school, an associate degree program, or a university for a BSN program. It has to definitely be either associate degree or bachelor's. It can't be higher. However, make that cold call and call the front desk at the university or at the college, community college, and ask for the nursing department, or ask for the assistant director of nursing, or whatnot. And then again, hi, my name is, and I'm a graduate student. I am in my last semester and looking for someone to precept me. Those are the best ways to make your contact. Then you can go via email. But again, if you're looking and very interested in a preceptor, you need to be looking at your local places and making those cold calls. And I know that that is challenging. Many of you asked me if you can work outside your site. Many of you ask if you can do it at your current employment, your project, or your preceptorship. And whereas I do say, yes, you can, I also want you to recognize that I want you to be thinking outside the box. Where are you going to get the best experience? Where are you going to get ideas and educational experience outside of your specific unit that potentially you could bring back to your unit? So please note that yes, you can work at your job place if you can find a preceptor that meets the requirements. But I also want you to ask yourself, what type of experience am I looking for? Because I want you to be challenged. I want you to learn stuff. And the best way to do that is to be outside of your comfort zone, okay? So those are your first thing, is you need to start looking at potential clinical sites. And the reason why you should start doing this by the time you get into Nurse 635, which is 2 to 3 terms before Capstone, is because we want to first enter that into SONIA, because there might not be a affiliation. And then when you enter it into SONIA, our affiliation teams are going to start working on getting that affiliation completed. I have seen students start this process by the time they get to their last course, and then they are too late and that affiliation doesn't get done in time, and then you don't make Capstone and you're waiting out a whole term. So that's why, the biggest reason why we want you to start ahead of time. Moving forward, so you're identifying those potential sites. Moving forward, let's talk about your project. So your project is education centered. It's not being a manager, it's not creating a policy, it's education centered. Now, it can absolutely be at your place of employment if that's what you're thinking about. One of the things that I think that a student should do is actually be calling and identifying your clinical site. And when you do, ask if there's a need for education that you can develop. That is, again, one thing that is a way to establish a relationship, networking. And I have seen many Capstone students be offered a job at the end of their preceptorship because that's what they did. They filled a need and they showed their worth. So your project can be the topic from 506, absolutely. But you need to ensure that your project is education based. So you're filling a gap. You've identified a gap and you're filling that gap. Sorry, 1 second, you guys. My dogs are playing in the background. So you're going to hear some dog toys. You want to identify a gap. So say that I called my local healthcare institution and I was put with an educator, and she was like, hey, actually, our hospital has decided that we are really bad about blood transfusion recording, looking at filling out the proper documentation, but that we're being safe with a blood transfusion, meaning we're doing our vital signs at a certain interval and all that. Because we know, right, that the first 15 minutes to 30 minutes is when we're going to see that transfusion reaction. So that would be, we're going to be doing this training in January, and that would be a wonderful project if you want to jump on board with this. So either A, you can center your project on that, and you can design your project around this education, or B, you can say, absolutely, I'm willing to do this in my 60 hours of preceptorship. And that's, again, not your project, but you're still willing to jump on board and help with that project. But that's my topic. My proposal is going to be bridging that gap. They've identified a gap of education with blood transfusion safety, and now I'm going to design a teaching plan around that. That teaching plan is not me designing a PowerPoint and then they're going to watch the PowerPoint, right? Because we all know that a PowerPoint is not going to get us, it's not engaging. Most people aren't paying attention. It is a face-to-face teaching or a simulation or some type of extra special workshop to bridge this gap with your audience. The best audience, nursing students are my favorite audience. They are going to look at you as if you are mama bird, and they will eat up everything you want to tell them. They are sponges. They will take any and every type of content you want to give them. The other type of education, as in my example, is this is a clinical facility that has noted that there's a deficiency in blood safety, blood transfusion safety. So your target audience are nursing. So you can have professional practice nurses for the whole institution, a specific unit such as med surg or OB, or you can do something with a new graduate training program, residency. Okay, so those are your best audiences, not patients. Okay, and then you are going to design that workshop, and then you need to measure. So was your teaching, again, this is the nurse educator track, was your teaching helpful? And how do you measure that? The best way is a pre and post survey. So I'm going to talk about one survey that I really, really like to use, and one thing that I really like to measure. And that is, I like to look at self-confidence. I want to give them this teaching. I want to bridge this gap, fill the hole, give them all this extra education and knowledge. But the reason why I'm doing it is not so they can just reciprocate and regurgitate the information that I'm giving them. It's because overall, I want them to be confident in the care they are providing. So the best thing for me is measuring self-confidence. Did my education promote the learner's self-confidence in being able to monitor blood transfusion reaction, monitor vital signs timely, enter the information in the documentation provided? Okay, so I really like the measurement of self-confidence. If you are using practicing nurses, knowledge is the most fundamental, basic level of knowledge. So it's actually almost a slap in the face to professional practice nursing that you are measuring that they know something. Okay, so self-confidence is such a great way to measure if the student, if the learner, if the nurse gained learning throughout your workshop. And one tool that I love to tell people about is the NLN. So the NLN has lots of tools. If you go to the National League for Nurses and you search instruments and tools, you will come up with a lot of tools and instruments that you can use. And one of them is a self-confidence and learning tool. You can do it pre and post, and there's your instrument. You don't have to create anything. The NLN has on their website, they have information that says, hey, if you are a student, you have permission without seeking it to use this tool. You can adapt it as long as the tool doesn't change much, which means keep that stem in there and add some verbiage that is about your project. So did the learner feel more confident in being able to document blood transfusion vital signs or whatever? So that's just an example. And one tidbit that I want to share with you is I love when students are measuring self-confidence. I think it's the easiest thing to measure. And a pre and post survey is the way you're going to assess teaching effectiveness. And please search the NLN. They have a lot of tools that you could use. Okay, So moving on, I would love for you to, you're watching this video, but I would love for you to watch the NED Capstone Down and Dirty video that I recorded. It's in the NED Resource Forum. I created a capstone proposal template. So that's for chapter 1, 2, and 3. And everything is there, the headings are there, and you just really just insert what you need to insert. So I will ask you to use that if you submit something to me that is not on this template. So please note that. And then don't forget that you have to do your city training. Now this is a requirement in 506, so it should be done and you should not worry about it, have to worry about it. It is a 3-year certificate, I believe. So it should carry you through the entire program. That city training will be submitted right before you go into Capstone. Okay, so going into the SONIA documentation system. Now, again, I like to use the class as an example of 635, Teaching and Learning. That is the first nurse educator track course. In that course is when I want you to start thinking about prepping for Capstone. And one way to do that is by registering in the SONIA platform. So all of that is in the NED Resource Forum, the links and everything. And you're going to put in your slated term. So we are just finishing up 20 TW1. So if you were 2 to 3 terms prior, you would be registering for 21 TW4, okay? The next thing you're going to do is those clinical sites that you identify that are potentials, you're going to be entering that into SONIA. Now they have a drop down button that you'll select to be able to find the institution if we already have an affiliation with them. If we don't, that's where you're going to enter it, okay? The next thing, you're going to identify preceptors. Now you can skip this for now, like this isn't something that has to be done 3 terms prior. You can still be reaching out to preceptors. This is on here, but a lot of students find it easier to be networking and trying to find that preceptor. And then around your curriculum and development class, which is your 645 class, which is the class before Capstone, is when they start uploading the documents. Now remember that both preceptors need to have an MSN, so a master's in nursing, for clinical and academic sites, and both preceptors have to be full-time. This is non-negotiable. They have to be full-time in order to meet the requirements. You would provide a copy of the preceptor orientation guide, the handbook, to these preceptors. But again, sometimes it might wait until closer to Capstone before you've actually identified your preceptors. But the sites are very important for affiliations. What you're going to need for your preceptor documentation is you're going to need a CV/resume. Those are the same. You need that resume to show that they have a master's in nursing or higher, that they are indeed full-time, and that usually has a little job or what their role is underneath their job title. This needs to outline that they have precepted. Now, again, they don't have to have preceptor experience. If they don't, that is fine. We are providing module training to all preceptors. But if they do have preceptor experience, this is where it would be great to have that there. The next thing, the preceptor job description. This is not their CV resume. Okay, so it is the actual official job description. Every place has this, every academic place has this, a hospital has this, because they all need it for accreditation, whether it's for CCNE accreditation at the academic place or JCO accreditation at the healthcare institution. They should have a job description, and it most likely sits with HR. The preceptor should be able to get this for you. The next thing that you can do that your preceptor does not need to do is you can just search their name up under NURSE for license verification. You have to do that for yourself, and you have to do that for your preceptors. So those are things that you will need for both of your preceptors. Okay, so that's for clinical and academic. Moving into Castle Branch. So this can start as early as 5:06. It does take some time to get your Castle Branch documentation. You create a Castle Branch account. It requires you to purchase a package. You're going to select your capstone term. Again, these are the things that you should be thinking way ahead of what capstone term you're in. You're going to locate the documents you need. You're going to have to get them into your computer as a file. So scan and save them as a PDF. This is really important because if you happen to have to delay your capstone, say you're planning on capstone and 2 weeks prior to the start date, you delayed for whatever reason. Something happened, emergency in your family, and you can't do it. Once we remove you from Sonia, it will actually delete everything that you've uploaded. So you have to re-upload things. So please save every document that you can. And I would just put a capstone folder on your computer and save everything into that. You're going to need your immunization records. You're going to need a physical examination form, and we provide a form for you that you take and have signed. You're going to upload certifications. You do need to have a CPR card, and then HIPAA and OSHA certificates. You'll have to have proof of insurance, health insurance, and professional liability insurance. So don't forget that. You need to be able to show proof of insurance. And then there's other things. So the background check, this is super important. This can take 6 to 8 weeks. It's been taking longer because of COVID. So make sure that you are giving yourself ample time to get that clearance for your background check. And then there's other things that you'll have to complete depending on the site that you're going to. Some sites require a different background check. Some sites require orientation materials or whatnot. So just know that there's things that you might need to require that are site specific. Okay, so capstone readiness. 1 to 2 terms prior. So this is going to be in, again, I like to go by courses. So 635 is your first nurse educator core course. And then you go into 640, which is assessment and evaluation. This is where it's a good time to start going, okay, I really have capstone on my radar. I want to attend a welcome webinar, please. This is a third Thursday of every month. We offer 2 times, and it's open to all graduate tracks. And so there's some great questions there. I really recommend you attending one of these sessions. You want to finish this first draft of your proposal and upload it to the NED resource forum in Brightspace. Super important, because I will tell you, with me, you and I will work together on 2 to 3, maybe 4 drafts of your proposal before it's uploaded. If I don't receive your proposal on time, then that can prevent you from going to Capstone. So please try to get me a proposal, a first draft, which I don't want to see just chapter 1. I want chapter 1, 2, and 3 uploaded to the Brightspace resource forum 1 to 2 terms prior, okay? You're going to ensure that once you've identified your preceptor, so I've decided I'm going to go with that blood transfusion gap, I'm going to make sure that my preceptor is supporting that project, okay? And obviously they are, because they're the one that gave me that idea. But if it's your own idea and your own gap that you've identified, you want to make sure that your preceptor is going to support this project. I have seen students get to Capstone and the preceptor has said, nope, doesn't fit in this place. You can't do it here. And then what does that mean? That means a student has to drop the course and wait until they can actually either do a new capstone project proposal or find a place that they can actually do their project. So ensuring that you have support is really important. Once you have your proposal approved by me, you're going to upload that to Sonia and your city certificate into Sonia for final approval. And you'll hear that from me. I will send you an email saying you have approval to upload to Sonia. Once you get back from, you'll hear from clinical experiences if you have permission to register for 685. The only way you can register for Capstone or 685 is by receiving that email from clinical experiences. Plan accordingly for 120 practicum hours once the term starts. Capstone hours cannot start beforehand and they cannot go after capstone. They need to happen within the 10 weeks as well as your project unfolding during the 10 weeks. So you're just going to have to plan accordingly. This is a lot, and I know that some students take some time off from work to be able to complete capstone term. When you have this entire checklist done, I would prefer you to send it to me. However, it's not mandatory. It's just a way really for you to keep track that you have all your boxes checked. Okay. And then just congrats, you're on your way to your capstone. And Capstone is just amazing. I love seeing the projects unfold and the support that you get from preceptors and from your peers. And you're really making a difference as a graduate student. And it's just hopefully one last step of your master's and first step going towards your doctorate journey. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope you found this video helpful. I thought maybe if I went through everything, it would be helpful. So any feedback would be appreciated. And I can't wait to work with all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks for watching.